on here. All right, so status is still amber, so it means something's still coming up. So the HCD cell pressure needs to come up.
Yeah, we need to wait a little bit.
Yeah, it's gonna take a few minutes. So let's go ahead and give you a tour of everything that's here, and then we can get your spray going, so we can at least start seeing what's going on. So HCD cell. Okay. So on here it says HCD cell. When I gave you the talk, I also referred to it as the IRM, ion routing multipole. Okay. It's the same thing. So okay, good. Pressure's up. We're power status means our pressures are good, and scanning it just means it's scanning.
Yeah,
it doesn't
it's always
scan.
scanning.
Yeah, that little thing looks like those old Christmas lights that make bubbles. All right, so let's turn on your syringe, and right here, go turn syringe on. Okay, and then here, drop down. So you have a flow rate, a volume, which is the syringe. It's 500, and then let's do prime. So press it and hold it once. Click and hold left click. And all that does is it changes it to 100 microliters per minute briefly. If you keep pressing it over and over again, it'll get stuck and it'll get upset. So just click and hold it one time until you start to see some ions come through. All right, that's looking better. Injection time 100. Do it again. Click and hold. There might have been a bubble.
Click and hold, right?
Yeah, do it again, please. All right, go to your ion source. So let's go and check what your ion source settings are. Okay, so when I talked about the spray, on this instrument we have various things that we can play with here. Okay, and I'll give you a tour of everything in here. We have the ion source tab, we have the define tab, scan tab, we have the calibration tab. Let's start here with the ion source tab. The ion source tab is going to control all of the things that we talked about this morning. So we need to put a positive voltage. It always gives you some negative value no matter what. We're in positive mode, as we can see up here. Okay? And 3400, these are the settings that Norm put in. These are settings that I would use. On your previous instrument, you might have used more sheet than aux gas for calibration. In this instrument, the optimal settings for doing the calibration are 0 sheet, 7 aux, 0 sweep. On here, I can look inside of here and I can tell you there's no sweep cone on this. Okay? If it was you can see the ion transfer tube. Right there. The sweep cone would be sitting on top of that. I don't know, is it up here or in a drawer? It might be in a drawer, but that's okay. But we don't need it for anything that you're going to be doing. I still don't see good ionization coming through here, so I'm going to go ahead and prime. And I'm going to hold this down until I see something. All right, so all I did was make sure it wasn't sitting on that sleeve. So you have to make sure it's on that sleeve. So it just popped out somehow. All right, so to me,
maybe we need to prime again now.
better? Back? Okay,
I think
good.
it's good.
Yeah, it's good.
Because maybe that's left over from the previous time.
Let it acquiesce.
Yeah.
All right, good. So what we're looking to see here on an ion source setting is this, and I would recommend that you create I'll show you that. If you go to favorites, okay, so I would say save current state. Okay, and then give it a name. Call it ESI pause, ESI POS training, and then today's date, or whatever way you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
You go ESI training and then today's date.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, and they're going to save it. You should say, you already saved it? It already saved it. Good. So now, anytime you come back to this, if you want to open this one up, click on that right click, and you would apply, and that would open that one up. So there's no more tune files in this. We have what we call a state or settings. We're going total ion current count over time. Okay? It's basically saying we have a 2%, 3% variability in the spray. That's really, really, really good. Okay? So when you're on the pro level, you just look at that. Or you could pretend you know what you're talking about and everybody else is like, what? Wow, you're amazing. The technical way to do it is if you go down here to this little peaks plot chromatogram, click there and click spray stability, and you can do either total ion chromatogram, you can do the base peak, or you could user define a specific mass. Let's do the TIC and click OK. So now what's going to do, it's going to scan and it's going to look at the TIC and plot that same thing right here. And there's a little circle here. You can rotate these to make them look however you want. We've made it very customizable if people want to look at it a certain way. But I usually like to wait about 100 scans, and I already know it looks good. But if there was something going on with the source, and you needed to manipulate the position or to change your spray settings to make sure that your stability was good, this is where you can make manipulations on the fly and watch this. So for your purposes now, everything looks really good. You want this value to be below 15%. And you're there at like 2%. Actually, the bottom end is right below you. So your spray stability is rock solid. It's critical to have good spray stability before you do anything, whether you're doing calibration or you're running samples. Because if your spray stability changes over the course of a run, you're going to get variability in your data. All right. The other thing I would do on top of this, just to show you, go back and stop this. If you click it again, it'll stop it.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
Like, this is doing the calibration, right?
Zoom in on this mass right here. So you can just
drag.
yep. Just drag it again. All right, I want the 622.03. So go back and go ahead. We want to plot the chromatogram, and I want you to do the user defined peak of 622. So add, go ahead and add 622.031. So just type it in. Okay, click OK. Now it's going to give you a spray stability of one specific ion. And I like to do that because when it does a spray stability check, it's going to pick ions from the mixture of them, and it's going to do a check on those first before it calibrates. So that looks darn good. That looks really good. So you can go ahead and stop it. All right. All right, so you have a bunch of things you can choose from. You can tell it to do skip to spray stability. So maybe you have a bad cal mix and you don't want it to fail because it's going to skip this, you want to skip the stability and just get right to the calibration. I would never do that because you always want to calibrate with good spray stability. You also have the availability to do the check only, and that is an evaluation mode. I would recommend you don't do that. Let's just go right to mass calibration and system calibration. Open it up. And what we're going to do here, and we're due for a positive ion calibration, I'm going to say go ahead and do your positive ion calibration first. So click that. Click it. Yep. And go ahead and hit start. And you see how it's doing a signal stability.
Oh,
It's going to do that.
automatic.
It's going to do that automatic.
I see.
Mhm. So it always does that at the beginning to make sure everything looks good. Now it's going to check the mass accuracy across all of those, and that looks really nice and tight. If you look at that curve there. Done. Okay?
Yes.
Done. Check mark. It prints up a report for you, saves it in a file. It tells us that we've calibrated our fine mass calculation, our mass accuracy. Those all passed. It's a 2-page report if you want to scroll through it. It basically shows you that we're really, really, really right on with our calibrations. Okay? They're very, very minimal ppm mass accuracy. Very, very minimal. But those look really good. They're all within the within the acceptable limits. Okay?
So this is the external calibration, right?
This is the external calibration. This is not the internal. Internal is done on the fly while we're running. Okay? So go ahead and just minimize that screen. That's okay. All right, so on a minimum, weekly, I want you to minimally put your cal mix in, check all of these things, make sure that the signal looks good, your intensity looks good, your injection time is on the lower side, okay? So 0.3, I'm not going to penalize anybody for that, but I like to see this on the lower side. If it starts to creep up beyond like 2, higher than that, then we're going to need to replace the ion transfer tube, or at least put a clean one in, okay? Weekly, at least do the mass calibration. It's easy, okay?
Yes.
Very easy. If you do check only, the difference between check and calibrate, check is it's only going to see if it meets the criteria, and then it's going to stop. Okay? If you say check only, and then if it tells you it failed, it's not going to calibrate it. It's just going to tell you you failed your calibration. Then you would have to go and calibrate it. The other option, so we did this, and it's saying it's calibrated April 20th. Recommended. It's always going to put you on a daily calibration cycle with Orbitrap. Your call if you want to calibrate it daily, but they do recommend it. My recommendation is calibrate it weekly. Norm calibrated it on the 13th, and it's recommending it 1 month.
Yes,
for the system.
systematic, yeah.
But because I'm here, we're going to do it.
Okay.
Okay. So before we do that, what I want you to do, we've got 200 microliters in there. It might make it. It might not. Let's start it because it was just calibrated. So click positive. Never click the negative. Click the positive and hit start. And then it's going to start off with the system signal stability first, and then it'll go right into it. Now it's going to go through a lot of functionality. This could take about half an hour.
It's system calibration, yeah. So that's next step, right? So first you did this upper one, right? Just mass calibration.
Yeah. Or you could do them. You could click both of them and do them together.
Okay. That's
It'll
fine.
always do the. It'll always do the.
Right.
It's always going to do the. I would always recommend do the calibration of the masses first to make sure that everything's lining up.
Okay, makes sense. Yeah.
And it's going to walk through a bunch of them, and when it's done, I'll show you how to get to the advanced features.